we call it a spiritual path, but it's really a reality path. We're on the path to reality. Just what is real, what has been right here in front of us all along, what we have been, what the self is, what the body-mind is. And we're just on a reality path to find out what all of this is. Our perceptions, we know of the world out here, we know that that's not really true, not really real. It's, we know this from science, from physics, all that. We know that our process of experiencing the world is not really as it appears. It's not really that our senses are actually perceiving the forms and phenomena around us as it appears, but we continue to feel and experience that we are actually perceiving the world out here that doesn't really exist as we think it does. And body-mind mechanism that we call ourself as an experiencer is not really what it really is. And because we know, really, right now, we can see and experience the body-mind. We can see our mind thinking. We can experience our feelings feeling. We can experience the senses perceiving. So we're not really the body, we're the experiencer of the body. We're the observer of the body. So when we get right down to it, nothing we have known, nothing we have ever learned, nothing that we experience as reality is actually reality as it really is. So we're on a reality path to reality as it really is. And but it's interesting that reality is different in different states of consciousness. So when we awaken to being unbounded, infinite consciousness that is the real experiencer, or you could say the real field in which all experience is happening, which is the first awakening. When we awaken to that, we awaken to reality as it actually is, according to the reality that we have become in that state of unbounded awareness. But even that is not reality, as it is reality of the self, the reality of the self as it actually is. But it's not the total reality. It's not the full reality. And we want the full, complete reality as it really is. We don't want to have anything less than the total reality that is what is, which really is. But, being unbounded, infinite consciousness is okay. That's okay. That's fine. Because the self itself is that. It is that. And so the true reality of the observer, of yourself, is it's not just localized to the body-mind. It's unlocalized, unbounded. The real being, the real self. And there's a distinct shift that takes place to being that when it happens clearly, you can't go back into the body, into being just the little body-mind again. Because that's not what the self is. We used to think, oh, I am this person, aware of these proceedings here, what's happening. But in truth, you are the observer of the person observing the proceedings that are happening here. But that observer is not just a witness. It's not just a witness that witnesses the body, mind. That witness is infinite. It's unbounded. All of the perceptions of the world out here are contained within that witness, that unbounded witness. So we don't get confused about what awakening is. Awakening is not just awakening to being the silent observer that observes the body-mind. That's good, but that's not the real awakening. Awakening happens when that witness awakens to its infinity, awakens to its unbounded field of being, in which all the boundaries of the world, universe, body-mind are within that, are contained in that unbounded being that you really are, that the self really is. So let's be clear on what awakening really means, really is. That self is the I, the same I that you're experiencing right now. Same self is not just a witness to the body-mind, but it is the field, unbounded field, in which all perceptions of the world and universe out here are contained. It's the source. You become the source of existence. It is the absolute field of pure being in which all manifest appearance is happening. So this is the first awakening. This is the first thing. And what we do here is we really, I guess, enliven that memory, enliven the memory of reality, the memory of the reality of the self, which is the first awakening. Remembering the reality of perceptions, which is, you can say, a second awakening. And we'll just go into this just so we know what that means. Because it could happen we either can begin to remember the process of perceiving as it really is, and or we could remember the total reality of what our perceptions really are. And generally the shift to what we call unity consciousness is really the remembrance in that field of unbounded being that you have become in the first awakening. The remembrance of itself as being all perceptions of everything, everywhere. All these forms and phenomena, everything that we see and experience in our field of perception, that I am. I am that. I am all this. All this. This is a shift to unity consciousness. It's not a shift that happens to you as the person. It's a shift that happens to the field of unbounded being that you really are. It happens to your real, unbounded self. So, the latent memory in the field of infinite consciousness becomes enlivened, and it awakens to its reality as also being all objects of experience. And this is a natural state. It's the natural state of being. It's beautiful and it's natural. Even the first state, beautiful and natural. Because it's reality as it really is. And so you can see how reality has changed from being the reality of the infinite consciousness that I am, in which all of the happening is happening, to being the happening itself. So So the reality has changed. The what is has changed. The what is different in different states of consciousness. And that's just the experience of the being, the experience as it really is. We find out the world is not out there somewhere separate from me. In the first state of cosmic consciousness, we find out that it's in myself. The whole world, all the universe, is really in myself. And then the shift to unity consciousness, we find the whole world, the whole universe is myself. It is myself. It is the self, what the self actually is. So these are great revelations, great shifts that we can't go back from that. Once the shift has happened, there's no going back. Because how can you go back to something that isn't real? That's just not what it really is. But those shifts, even to unity consciousness, are really just the beginning, the real beginning. Because, and where we're at right now, actually, where all of us here are at right now, is really we're in a good state. We don't have to wish or dream or hope about being at some place, some higher state of consciousness at some time in the future. Because reality is here now. It's what is right now. It's not what will be transpiring at some point in the future. It's what is right now. And all of us here have, experienced some little peep into that at some point in our life. Some peep into that, because right here and now, around you, all around you, the space, all around you, the space between your eyes and this screen, that space is alive and awake, and that space is really listening and watching. It's not the mind. It's not your little mind that is really watching this. The whole space around you is watching you, watching this. The whole space is a space of, we can feel the presence in the space around us here now. And the reason we can feel that, if you just be still, just be still and be awake to the stillness in the room around you. you see, it's not just a silent stillness. It's an alive, awake, watching, listening stillness. It's watching and listening to your every move, to your every breath. It's awake because it's your own unbounded, unlimited wakefulness, unbounded consciousness that has been here all along, but it's been covered up by our identification with the body-mind and all the objects of experience. So when it's covered up like that, and when we have that old, long-standing habit of identifying with this individual body-mind as being who I am, then we create a false reality. We've been living in a false reality, a false identification with the body-mind. It's not that the body-mind and the perceptions out here are a complete illusion. It's not that. Really, it's just experiencing it in its true reality. That's what's been missing all along. The experience of life in its true reality. And so here we get to come a little closer to that reality because we can sense, something can sense that stillness, that really alive, watching awareness that is, or watching presence, you can say, in the environment around us. And the reason why you can sense that presence is because that's the actual character of your own self. It's the nature of your own being that we've not been familiar with because it's so vast and expansive that we've become settled with just the experience of myself as being this little body. We're comfortable with that. We're in a comfort zone of ignorance, really, of comfort zone of ignorance of reality as it actually is. So if you want to be satisfied with that, then that's fine. Lots of people out there satisfied with ignorance. And it's okay too. It's okay. But there's so much more to our self that is actually right here now in front of us. We just haven't been awake to it. We haven't been still and quiet enough to have that pure stillness, pure being become awake to itself, just totally awake to itself, so that that is the forefront of experience, rather than all the objects in the body-mind. Shifting to that unboundedness, and that is now the forefront of experience, because it's the real experiencer, it's the field in which all experience is happening. So it's pretty hard to miss that when it dawns, when that awakening dawns. And it's not an intellectual awakening that transpires. The intellect is a beautiful thing, but it is really what has been responsible for causing the ignorance of who we really are in the first place. It became identified with form. It became identified with the form and phenomena. And so that the intellect only really wakes up. It's not really a tool for awakening. It's a tool, a very handy tool, to know what awakening is not. So it's a very, very good, useful tool, that discrimination, that inquiry, very useful. But when it comes to the actual shift, it's pretty useless. It has to stop inquiring. It just has to stop everything, so that the real self can see itself all by itself. It doesn't need any help. This is how it happens. It happens by itself, when the mind stops. And of course, the mind never stops. It's always rambling on. But what transpires, what happens in satsang, what happens is the presence gets enlivened, it gets begins to remember itself. It just becomes more awake in the environment around, because it's really that presence that is speaking and listening through us. It just uses us, body minds, as vehicles to remember itself. And so we should do that, allow that presence to become more dominant. And this is good. This is what I do here. The presence becomes more awake, the awareness becomes more clear, the wakefulness becomes brighter and brighter, and the thoughts in the mind become quieter, more quiet, more quiet. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So see, we begin to move in the direction of the experience, direct experience of really being, or moving in that direction of being the stillness, being the presence, being the transcendental field. That transcendental field has never been transcendental. It has always been right in front of us here, all along, all along. And we've been doing our best to ignore it. We've been so busy, our minds, our bodies, so busy that even in our meditations, we've been so busy meditating that we couldn't see the transcendental field of being that is everywhere, that the I really is, the self really is that. And so we don't wish or hope, don't long or yearn, don't desire enlightenment, don't desire awakening. You let go, relax, just let go. Stop searching. And see, just even the movement in that direction, of course, we can't tell the mind to stop desiring because it doesn't know how to do that. But even just the movement in that direction helps to relax the search somewhat, so that the clear presence, the you could say, just the light of consciousness the unbounded light of infinite consciousness, which is the presence in the room around us, can shine a little more brightly. They can just open up a little more clearly. The mind can settle a little more. The awareness can become brighter and clear, and really at least move in the direction of coming out of all those concepts and ideas and understandings and feelings and emotions and perceptions. Because the unbounded awake, just clear wakefulness, pure wakefulness, is the reality of yourself. It is yourself. You are just pure wakefulness. pure being. And that begins, at least, to come to the forefront of experience here and now. Because you can see more clearly now your body. You can feel your whole body. You can see some shining presence becoming more dominant in the perceptions around you. You can feel your own emotions. So that which is aware of all of this is becoming more awake, is becoming more awake, so that what will field of presence in the environment around us here is really your own wakefulness. It's your own clear, pure consciousness. And really, all of this is contained within that field of pure being. You are consciousness. You are conscious. This is the thing that transpires in awakening. You are no longer the person. You've never been the person in the first place. You've always been the observer of the person. And that observer has always been unbounded. It has been the unbounded field in which all of this is contained. This is not an understanding, it's not a knowledge that we're teaching. It's not something that you are learning. It is being spoken here and now because it can have the effect, if we're simple, just simple and innocent and open, can have the effect of bringing that field of that witness that is caged in the mind and body, bring that witness out so that it can see its unbounded reality that it really is. So just let go of trying, let go of searching, let go of desiring, let go of that longing and yearning, and just be here now. Be this simplicity, this utter simplicity of the eternal reality of now, right now. It's beautiful. You see, we can let go and just continue to let go like that. Well, we continue to ramble on here. It doesn't matter what is being said. Doesn't matter. It's really just the consciousness itself enlivening its memory of itself. And that has been caught in the form and phenomena of the apparent observer and the observed. And so we just continue doing whatever we're not doing, and being the non-being being that we really are. So that's just a little flavor of the first shift that takes place in awakening, the first experience of reality as it actually is, from the perspective of the unbounded self. But from the perspective of the total reality of the self as being the objects, all objects of experience, that the presence is infusing. The presence in the room around is it's infused in all of the objects. It's not just in the space. Not just in the space. It is the space, but it is everywhere in all the objects. And at some point it awakens to that reality of being all the objects in the room, all the objects in the range of perception. I am all that I survey. I am everything, everywhere. That shift again takes place when there's a great critical mass of, you could say, aliveness in the stillness, and the shift to being everything everywhere happens. So this is what's transpiring here now. It's just the reality as it really is right here, now, in front of us. And because the self really has always been everything, everywhere. And so that's just the, we can say, second shift. But there's more to come, and we don't want to get you yearning and longing for more like that, but we do have to give some knowledge of reality as it actually is here. We haven't even touched on the whole process of experiencing that is transpiring right here and now. We think it's a person here sitting here talking to some people that are connected to the internet and are watching all of this. But that's just a superficial experience of what is really happening. Because what is really happening is that the self, in the appearance of this, is experiencing itself in the appearance of that. So there's a flow of consciousness in its process of experiencing itself. And this is really only directly known in unity consciousness, in more of a finer perception of the flow of consciousness in its process of experiencing itself at every point, everywhere, in the field of infinity. And so what transpires in that is that finer levels of the reality of the surface appearance of life everywhere that appears as all of this, the finer quantum mechanical levels of infinite consciousness are being revealed, being exposed, not only here and there, but everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So these finer levels start to be experienced. And that can be happen at any time. Because these finer levels are beautiful and very fine, defined flows of our self in its process of experiencing itself, and more of the beauty and love and fullness of being that you really are gets awakened, gets unfolded, gets revealed, just revealed. But in another shift that takes place, something more than everything, something more than the flow of the self within itself, something more than the flow of love, something more than everything is just appears, because that something was everything all along. And that something is nothing, nothingness, pure nothingness. But that doesn't sound very charming, but it is very charming, it's very beautiful. It's just that there's no words to describe that, and even the description of it, if it could be described, would not be able to touch what it really is. And you see, this is beyond the experiencer, it's beyond the experiencing, it's beyond all experience. But reality is different in different states of consciousness. And even in that state, there is a deeper reality that gets revealed, and can only get revealed in that state. And it has been what this has been all along. And it has not been just divine consciousness. It has been sheer divinity, sheer supreme divinity, that we can't put a label on it, we can't begin to describe what it is, but we can get some sense in that direction here and now, because in that presence that is here now around us, that presence is really the presence, that supreme divine presence that is only what is. It's only what is. It's supreme divinity. And we can only really let go and allow that divineness to remember its own perfection that has been colored by our false identification with the body-mind. But it has been that all along. It's been sheer perfection all along. And it's not that we have to refine our body-mind culture, everything, all of that, which is fine too, that's okay too, to become perfect, a perfect being. No. It's that what is has been pure perfection all along. And we only need to awaken to the true, the total what is, the total reality of what is. And we can only do that now. We can only surrender to that now.